This is when it's starting to get exciting and real at this point, right?
Yeah. Exciting and real. Hey there, Space Big Cats fans. Jason Ryan, your roving KC reporter here, and I'm both cursed and blessed.
That's how. Yeah.
I've been busy, crazy, off the sidelines dealing with guest issues. We got a lineup that you won't believe today. But to start off with, I got one Doc Horowitz. Doc, thanks for being on our program, and you're here today to kind of walk us through crew walkout.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, the crew wakes up a few hours ago, so about 6 hours prior to the launch. They're getting them up and getting them ready to go. They've, I slept pretty good before my flight. I got to fly 4 times, and it's an exciting morning, obviously. This is an experienced crew. They've been through this before, so they kind of know the routine. But still, every flight's exciting. They get them up, and you have a lot of things you got to get done, including you have to have that breakfast. I don't know if they showed the shot yet this morning with everyone sitting around the table.
Yeah, I have a question about the breakfast. I keep hearing the stories. Does anyone actually eat that thing?
Well, let me tell you a story from my first flight. Okay, so you don't know if you're going to suffer from what they call space adaptation syndrome. And about 50% of the crew will get some kind of, it's like a motion sickness kind of a problem when you get to orbit because you're trying to adjust to being in zero gravity.
Right.
So you're a little cautious about what you eat. So I'm like, maybe I'll have like a half a toasted bagel.
Yeah, some edge off.
I'll take a little edge off, but you're in. So my commander, my first flight, he'd flown before, Andy Allen, STS-135.
That's a good guy.
We were multi-shift, so the kitchen is working crazy. They're cooking breakfast, they're cooking lunch, they're cooking dinner all at the same time.
Right.
So it's really weird. You're sitting down for breakfast and you smell dinner. It's kind of strange. So he's having his dinner, I was having my breakfast. And he's having like a cheeseburger and fries. I'm eating a little bit, and I look over and go, "He's eating a cheeseburger and fries, huh?"
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Yeah." I go, "What if you get sick?" And he goes, "He's a Marine." He goes, "Well, we got to throw up. You're like a Marine." I go, "Yeah, but you're sitting next to me."
And I don't want to be on my orange.
Exactly. But he didn't have any problems. And it turned out I was very fortunate. The first flight I found out I didn't,
Now, there's this story out there I read from Mike Mullane's book, and every time I say Mike Mullane, the eyes start to roll.
He tells good stories.
Yeah, he does.
The pictures of the crew coming out here.
Yep, they're just loading into
They've all had their weather brief, gotten in their suits. There's quite a bit of time spent getting in their suits and getting everything checked out. And this is in the crew quarters there. And you can see the staff there that takes care of us while we're in crew quarters. It is great. It's like a little home away from home. It's a lot of fun to work with those folks. They take great care of us. And now they're going into the elevator. Now, probably the slowest elevator on the planet.
I was just like, Jim Howell. So he said the same thing. I mean, these elevators can take forever.
I don't know why they make it so slow. I think just the anticipation. You'll see the crew walking out real shortly. This is a really exciting moment because it's starting to get real.
Yeah.
It's like you've been doing sims and training and all of this, and here you are, and there's a crowd there waiting for them, cheering them on there at the ONC building. And this is just a fun moment to get back, bring some memories, getting on the Astrovan and headed out to the Cape.
Now, a lot of people may not know this, but on the other side, there's that. Wow, I've never seen that before. If you look forward, you see all the media.
Oh man!
The rope deck and section. That is all media.
It's media, and a lot of the workers there are all.
And there they go, escorted by NASA security There'll also be a helicopter flying overhead. It's about a 20-minute ride out to Launch Pad 39A. About 10 miles altogether for the drive. We see the NASA headquarters building in the foreground and the Launch Complex 37 in the background where Delta IV is launched. Here we see the crew go by. And NASA Test Director Jeremy Graeber has advised NASA security that the Astrovan should be cleared through the roadblock to get to the launch pad just after they pass the Launch Control Center.
Tens of thousands of people, and they pour their heart and soul into this. I mean, this is what makes the space program so unique. I mean, you walk around this place and you just talk to anybody who has anything to do with this program, and they are the most excited, conscientious people you've ever met in your entire life. It does.
I mean, I can hear you. Okay, you just like it's, and a lot of people kind of miss that. It's not the machines are important.
The machines are important, but they're a reflection of the people that work on them. They're really the heart and soul of. And I go all around the country and visit with all the contractors and the NASA centers and all the engineers and the scientists that fly experiments and build the hardware, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, that is a lot of fun. And, these are the people that really make the space program important.
Now, for the job, you're an astronaut. You're the tip of the spear, so to speak.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. Is it something that gets in your blood, or is it one of those jobs that you kind of have to? I mean, once you get involved with space, you can't get enough of it, or is it something that it's kind of a love-hate thing? How does it work?
No, it's for me. I mean, everybody's probably different, but for me, I mean, it was something I wanted to do ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Right.
I mean, I've always been around airplanes and flying and aerospace, so it was in my blood, and always has been, always will be. It'll always be fun for me to follow whatever goes on in the space program and work with the folks that do all the neat things, design rockets and fly shuttles and whatever we do. It's just so exciting. I mean, it is. We're just barely getting started on this new frontier. We got a lot in front of us.
Right.
As much as a shuttle. I mean, we've been flying a shuttle for 30 years, 135 missions. Just phenomenal, but we're just barely taking the baby steps when you look at the size of the universe.
You mentioned that, and I remember hearing Gene Craig say once that he watches the astronaut report now, and they do the EVAs.
Yeah.
And he goes, that is so crazy to me. It's like, because when I did EVAs, this was the most complex work that we had to do. And for these, he called you these kids. And I found that hilarious. I'm looking, I mean, he's like, these kids. Well, I guess to him,
Well,
and
to me too. I'm getting kind of odd at years.
He's like, it's just part of their toolbox. Is that how you saw it too?
Well, yeah. Part of what you're not seeing here is that they make it look really easy. Okay?
Right.
It's actually very hard. I mean, flying shuttles, getting that hardware all to work, the million things that have to go right to get one off the ground. I mean, it's almost like NASA makes it look too easy, almost to a fault. But it is very complicated,
the training. Maybe a bad thing for NASA?
Well, you obviously don't want to have lots of problems because then it looks like you can't do your job. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it shows that NASA can do a phenomenal job because they do make it look easy, but it's very complex. You look at all the training. You look at, for the spacewalk, as you bring up the spacewalk. I mean, they spend hours and hours in the neutral buoyancy lab that we call the NBL, training and choreographing those spacewalks.
And so, yeah, they make it look easy because they've choreographed every move of a spacewalk, and it's hours. You know, they spend 6 hours at a time in this big swimming pool.
And they got all these people around them, all these scuba divers.
Right.
It's the largest basically swimming pool in the world.
Yeah. And then, yeah, you can put a whole mock-up of a shuttle bay in there and big chunks of the space station and a robot arm. And, you know, I used to train with those guys, you know,
I'm fondled by my producer, excuse me.
Okay. But it's a lot of training, and to their credit, you know, they make really hard stuff look easy.
Excuse me just one second. Live TV, folks, always fun, Ben.
You're good. Yeah.
Did you find out? That sign that they're on their way. Now, I have a question for you. When we were coming in, you know, the one thing you guys may not know is when you have a launch day like today where the weather's kind of iffy, the rumors begin flying at like faster than the shuttle, right?
Mach 25.
Yeah, exactly.
Always a rumor.
And we heard that there was going to be a 7:30 last call for basically a poll for the weather.
Sure.
Now, I'm hearing the helicopter. From what I'm understanding, that means they probably said, let's go for it.
Well, the crew, you can see, I see on one of your monitors there, the crew's approaching the VAB and launch control complex.
Yep.
And so they'll pull up there, and they're going to let the head of the astronaut office and the management team will get out right there, and they'll go into the launch control center. So, yeah, they're on their way. They're proceeding with the count. They'll go ahead and strap the crew. It takes about an hour to get the crew strapped in. And even though the weather may not be great, the forecast is all they need is a 5-minute, you know, opening in the weather to take off, and then check enough weather to have a good enough abort landing site in case they had to return to launch site.
Which a lot of people don't understand that sometimes. They say, well, the weather's bad. And I remember one launch, we're sitting here and we had blue skies,
right,
except for over the SLF.
Right. You have to have good weather for the launch.
Right.
You don't want to like go through lightning or anything
Correct.
like that.
No triple electrification.
Right. No triple electrification. We learned that one during the Ares 1X launches. And then you have to have good weather in case when you launch, if you had lost an engine early in flight, or return to launch site abort. So we have to have good enough weather to land back on the launch strip, landing strip out here, the SLF.
Right.
And then you also have you get good weather here. And
yeah.
I've scrubbed where we didn't have any good weather overseas.
Yep. One of the TAL sites.
Yeah. So we didn't have transatlantic abort weather, and we usually keep 2 or 3 sites over there. And I've seen times when all 3 sites were down, and go figure. So it can be frustrating, but you know, we have to have all these things to make sure we have all our options open.
Well, that's another part of the problem, I think, when it comes to understanding NASA. They don't really see, the folks may not understand that it's not an exaggeration when they say it's the most complicated vehicle ever built by man.
Oh, it is.
End of conversation.
Right. It is amazingly complex. You know, I tell people when they come to see a launch, first of all, everyone asks, you know, the rumors and what's the percentage, right? And I go, the percentage is always 50-50.
Yep.
Either we're going to go, or
we're not going to go. Yep.
And anybody who actually thinks they can take everything into account and give you an exact percentage is just kidding themselves. So, but it's a very complex vehicle, and a million things have to go right. So, take it personally if you don't see a launch.
Exactly. It's like if you don't know all these little things, it might be confusing. Like you can be out here and it's like there's wall to your pilot,
right.
Severe clear.
Severe clear.
You can have severe clear, but guess what? Ain't Istrus, you're out of gas. Ain't happening. Folks, we kind of had something special planned for Crew Walkout this time. We had Jim Halston on last time, and Doc has been with us for the first few minutes talking. But we wanted to give you a broad swath cut of spectrum of shuttle history. So we're joined by one Charlie Hobaugh.
How you doing?
Charlie, how's it going?
Charlie, good to see you, buddy.
I didn't know that I actually brought in a broad spectrum.
Yeah, you are the broad spectrum.
Yeah, that's a stereotype.
What we kind of wanted to do was we wanted to get at from a lot of different eras. We're working to get a couple of those. We're not going to mention any names in case they can't quite make it, because the scheduling today, as you might imagine, is insane, and it's hard to hear people talk. But we wanted to basically share folks your stories and have you maybe talk to each other and tell us your experiences and compare them to one another when you flew. I think the 2 times that I caught you was 118 and 129. Right. So we've been talking with Doc. Doc, I'm going to let you grab your water, catch your breath for a second. Charlie, tell us a moment when you were doing crew walkout that basically sticks out in your mind. What are the moments you're going from the building to the pad that says, every time I think about crew walkout, I kind of think of that?
Well, I guess the thing that maybe Scott said some of this, but when you to the pad, and Sound of Freedom overhead is actually our crew arrival right now. You get up the pad, anytime you've been out there before, always a lot of people out there.
Right.
So there's people that are preparing the vehicle, they're safing it, that are keeping you out of trouble, make sure you don't go in the wrong place.
Don't touch anything you're not supposed to.
That's right, you know. And now you go out, it's just you and the closeout crew. The vehicle is, emitting some, extra overloaded gas from the
It's making noise.
hydrogen and oxygen. It's creaking. Everything's cold. You look on the side of the solid rocket booster. It's got loaded stamped on it, which means it's, prepped and ready to go. It's just a unique time. So it's just you and the closeout crew, and you and your crew, and it's kind of the last time to see the outside before you go into the vacuum of space. So it's kind of a peaceful moment.
Peaceful.
I'd call it peaceful.
See, now when I hear that, you're used to being surrounded by people, and there's the company presence, your fellow coworkers, and human beings, and it's quiet. You're doing TCDT, for example, and you come out there again. It's dead to the world, and there's this big monstrosity, beautiful monstrosity, this big monstrous vehicle, and it's creaking, it's groaning, it's got hydrogen, and
thousands of people have basically prepped this thing for you to go for the ride on this mission. Yeah, and it really and they pour their heart and soul into doing it all right.
That's exactly what you said. Yeah.
So, Scott, you didn't lie.
I didn't lie.
No.
You speak the truth.
Thanks for backing me up there.
I should have come here early to make sure I said the same thing. It's all working out. It's all part of the plan.
You got the talking points, right?
That's right. No, it's great.
Got the cliff notes here in the memo. It's like he's here all of 5 minutes. He's already throwing you under the bus. I mean, what's the story with that?
He knows me.
Oh yeah.
So, for the two of you, as you look at this now and think this is the last crew that will go out to, what are you thinking? I mean, you guys have been there and done that. Got the T-shirt in your case, flight suit. What are you thinking right now about that?
For them, they I'm sure feel a little bit of the pressure of everybody who's come before them and played a part in preparation of the vehicle, the mission, the full team that's waiting to take them on their mission. I mean, they feel like I guess if I did, is like I just don't want to do anything that could jeopardize the success of the mission.
So you say the shepherd's prayer.
Yeah, it's just that's you don't have concern for yourself. You have concern that everything's going to go right. You don't want to let anybody down. That everything will go smooth from the standpoint that you do everything you can to make it a success. And in this case, the whole culmination of the program, is going to end here. But it's also hope for a new beginning. I know Scott back in the day was working on the Constellation program and the development of how that whole program would work, and now we're kind of using kind of a subset of that. Hopefully, is our next generation beyond low Earth orbit vehicle. So we're kind of losing that beginning step with the Ares that we've been working on for a while, and going more to the lower beyond low Earth orbit vehicle, but also trying to host a competition of commercial vehicles that can hopefully accomplish low Earth orbit type manned vehicle.
And that's freeing NASA to go beyond low Earth orbit.
Yeah, it's freeing. It's allowing us to concentrate maybe in a different way. It'll be interesting how it all pans out in the end, but it's going to take some time to develop. So I think the sad part is that we'll just have that gap for a period of time, and that was not something that was unforeseen years ago either. We knew it was coming, and now it's upon us. It's kind of where we're at. So,
Doc, let me ask you this: you're working on the little project with your company, and you're looking at how things are playing out for the future. And I mean, as this crew wheels out to the launch pad for the shuttle for the last time, do you think that any was an important next step so you can get on to that next bigger and better thing?
Yeah, this, I think Charlie summed it up pretty well. Shuttle's flown for 30 years.
Right.
lot of people kind of have lost perspective. I mean, back when we started the space program, none of us knew how to get into space and put people there safely. We learned how to do that.
Right.
And then we rapidly accelerated and ended up putting, 12 people on the moon.
Yes.
Which was amazing, and that gave us the basis and the knowledge and the people and the experience to build something as complicated and as phenomenal as the shuttle. Shuttle's flown for 30 years, 135 flights. The reality of budget is NASA only gets 0.5% of the budget, so you can't do everything at once. So in order to move on, you had to retire the shuttle in order to free up funds to do the next thing. So now the problem is this transition has been very difficult. And unfortunately, I spent a lot of time in Washington, and politics has made it even more difficult. And it's frustrating to see us have to work so hard to get through this transition. It's quite frankly, it's very frustrating because one of the things that's going to be an outcome of this lull is we're going to lose a lot of talent. And like Charlie said and I said, it's the people that pour their heart and souls into these vehicles that make them fly. And the very sad part of this difficult transition is we're probably going to lose a lot of that talent. And they're focused today, and they're the most focused, dedicated workforce you'll ever see, and they'll get this vehicle off and do everything they can to make this a safe mission. But the future is going to be very difficult.
Well, I think the dedication of the people that really believe in spaceflight, and that's what Space Vidcast works to do, is try to make it commonplace, make everybody understand why it's important. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that, I think a lot of people are that we won't give up on it and we'll stick to it. And I think a lot of the dedication that Carrie Ann and I and the others that work with Space Vidcast see, it remains. It's just that we had to get past that little hump. We're going to get back to the task at hand. We see the crew. They've left the Astro van right now. And
this is the moment Charlie was talking about. You get to see the vehicle. And yeah, real quick, I remember, the first few times standing out there, and there's very few people out there. It's you and the closeout crew, and you're just taking it in because the vehicle is coming alive, as Charlie said, because you have the cryogenics in there, and you see the boil off coming out, and you see the frost on the tubes, and you're just admiring, just such a beautiful sight. It is a magnificent vehicle, just incredible. And you're about ready to climb into this baby. And Charlie can probably
it's kind of like being in the huddle for the last time. Final play.
Yeah, the final play.
Right. Game's on the line.
Yeah.
You got to go in with all you got. So.
It's 10 and goal, right?
That's right. That's right.
Well, one thing notice they did it on 130 there. I think they're going to do it again. They did it on 133. They basically all got together. They did a group hug. They kind of had a Jesus moment, and it was like I had never seen that before. And it was, to say it was moving is an understatement in biblical proportions. It was very, wow. This is the last flight of Discovery, and they're basically doing this very human thing.
Yeah, a lot of crews will get together. I think Scott, I don't know if you guys did it, but we'll get together and. Someone will be the designated priest of the crew, and say kind of a final prayer to get together, and that's it. It's like, Lord, let's not screw this up kind of thing.
Yeah, the astronaut's prayer. It's the astronaut's prayer. Lord, don't let me mess this up. Right.
That's right. So.
Well, folks, everything out here is on a set schedule. It's like clockwork. Only our clock's not digital. I think that old, one that skipped a gear and the alarm never worked well.
You have clocks with hands?
Yeah, man. I got like two at home.
Can you read one?
Charlie, as you can, I'm sure you can imagine, your schedule today is going to be kind of insane. You're going to be busy. We know that you got to go. You got other appointments. We really want to thank you for coming on our show because this is really what we were trying to accomplish for this. Crew Walkout is awesome. And
It's sandwiched here.
Between, Charlie and Doc, it's like the Doc and Charlie comedy hour, but hey, good time.
He was my mentor.
Really? Oh, yeah, this is your Obi-Wan.
That explains a lot of trouble.
The fledgling, okay. So, well, Charlie?
Thank you.
Thank you, man. That was awesome. Good luck today.
Thanks.
And I guess we're still going on. And Doc, we're going to throw back to you.
Okay. Good to see you, Charlie.
We're hoping that we can have a few more guys come on to kind of help Doc out a little bit, but I don't think he's going to have a problem. We got you for a little while longer, don't we?
Whatever's on your schedule, I just go where I'm told.
I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Whatever I'm told.
We're pretty easy going here.
Now I'm seeing Doug Hurley there, and he's like, he's on the phone. home.
Yeah, I got a phone home.
Mom.
ET phone home. I think I changed my mind.
Mom, I'm going to be busy for a little while. Can you take care of the cat?
No, he might be ordering a pizza.
Now,
I love this phone, by the way. I used to work on the closeout crew, too. And there'll always be an astronaut on the closeout crew.
Right.
And so it's one of my additional duties. And this is a really fun time to be with the crew. You see, there's number 5, and the astronaut will wear number 2.
okay.
And so if you see a number 2, that'll be the astronaut office, first helping to close out. But I used to always like to call and say, okay, it's time to turn on TV, they're getting ready to launch.
Yeah, you can wake up now. You get Dad in the living room. Did you put the dog out?
That's right.
Now, Doc, why don't you tell us right around, you follow the yellow brick road around to the corner, there's probably one of the most vital places in the whole, that's the 95th level, I believe?
195.
195 level.
Right.
And, you're in the orange suit, but, you're about to make a long road trip.
You're talking about the last stop.
Yeah, the last stop. So why don't you tell us about the last stop that's around the corner?
Yeah, around the corner is the last pit stop, if you will. There's a little restroom there. So if you have to make one last stop at the little general's room.
The little general's room.
Stop by there. And it's a little stainless steel toilet installed there, right there at the 195-foot level, which is 195 feet up. And that's the little kind of gangplank walkway area goes into the white room that is up against a hatch there on the side of Atlantis. And that's where they'll fit you up with your harness and make sure everything's ready to go put you in the vehicle and strap you in.
That's kind of the most awkward potty break ever. I mean, you're like,
yeah,
trying to get it
in the orange suit.
Yeah, exactly.
After your third or fourth flight, you get really good at it.
I don't
practice.
I'm sure you either may or may not know this, but as journalists, we go out to the pad, and from time to time we go on the launch complex, and it's nice to see the shuttle. It's nice to see. But every journalist, especially the photojournalists, and I don't know what that says about them, but they all want a shot coming out of the mentor, that little bit. I mean, that's like yeah, man, it's like that's the top shot when you go up there.
Well, like you said, it's last stop for about 5 million miles. So
now we're seeing. Now you said 2 was the astronaut. What are some of these other numbers? We're seeing 7.
Well,
6,
there's 7 total on the crew.
Right.
So each person you'll need 1, a support person will be 2, and so each of the people out there have a number. It also helps them on the camera keep track of everybody, and they all have their jobs to do. Getting the astronauts suited up. They have to secure the white room too. You'll see them do that when they're all done getting everybody suited up. They have to account for everything. You don't want loose stuff floating around there, like when the rockets light off.
Does it happen a lot? When you hit zero microgravity environment,
right?
Is there always something that floats around, or is it generally you guys have everything locked down? You know where it is?
Well, everything floats, but everything's like your checklist and everything have like little tethers on them.
Okay.
So there's like a little string with a clip, and that's one of the things the astronaut support person does is they go in there beforehand. They make sure all the checklists are laid out the way you want them, and everything's clipped in correctly. Because what's really bad is like if you were in the commander seat and I was in the pilot seat, we'd be sitting side by side, mission specialist sitting behind us, and you wouldn't want a checklist to come flying into them on liftoff.
You're like sitting there, it's like this heroic moment. You got this thing in your. Yes, I am an American icon.
We used to do that in the simulator. So we have a simulator that tilts all the way back. We used to do tether checks. You make sure the tether would hold and see if it hits your MS.
So we got there's Commander Chris Ferguson, and he's getting up. Hi, Mom. So I think he's waving to us, actually.
I think he is.
He saw that, but
he probably saw us.
There's the blue. What is the blue back there?
That's a pad. He's got a parachute,
right?
And then there's blue padding in there to try to get rid of the hot spots. So when you're sitting on your back, they have pads and everything so that it kind of levels out the pressure. Because he's going to be on his back, until
at least 2 hours
launching.
Yeah,
it's a couple hours.
Going to be sending out all these photos pretty soon.
Now, guys, in case you haven't figured out, started a premium here, and they love us, so they put us right in the tweet up tent with their megaphones of doom. So it is what it is. It's live. Now, Chris got a few. I think this is 4th if I remember correct, 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many flights.
But, I mean, basically, for a mission like this, they want, a lot of the more high-profile missions like the flight, the Hubble flight, they tend to pull out all the big guns and they don't play games. So the crew is probably the best they could pick for this mission. I mean, they got the biggest guns possible, right?
You're always looking for a mix of experience. Your commander will always have flown at least once or twice as a pilot, so you know he's going to have mission experience. You could have a rookie pilot, or you could have a pilot experience, you know, like we have here. And your mission specialist, you know, one of the interesting things about this flight is they're only flying a crew of 4.
Right.
So the crew's going to be really busy because don't have the luxury like on my last flight we had 7 people. So you had 3 extra hands to do all of the transfer of equipment from the shuttle into the station.
Right.
So you have to do the inspections and they have a lot of work. So the crew of 4 is going to be quite busy. So having experience like this crew does will really aid them because none of it will be new to them.
I'm looking here, I'm not sure if anyone's answered, but does anyone in the crowd want to tell us which was the last mission to have a 4-person crew? Or better yet, what year did it fly on? How about that? Nice, easy one.
Boy.
Yeah, I actually know that because, you know.
A year easier than the mission.
Okay, no one's asking you back there. So the
Trivial Pursuit.
Now, the rationale for between having this a 4-person crew for this final flight is twofold, from what I understand.
Right.
Here, maybe fill us in a little bit about that.
Well, part of it is the safety aspect. As you know, ever since after we started flying after the Columbia, we always had a backup shuttle on the pad. And the idea is, if you had a problem where you couldn't bring the shuttle home, you could send up another shuttle. We don't have that. This is the last shuttle flight.
Right.
So the only way for them to get home, if they can't come home in the space shuttle, would be to come down by a Soyuz.
Correct.
And so you don't want a lot of extra people up there because you're going to have to rotate people back down on Soyuz flights, and it'll take a while. So that's one of the motivations for not having more people or doing a crew rotation on this flight.
And the second one is the primary, is actually is in thinking with the primary mission for this flight is, this is a resupply flight. They want to stock the station full.
Right, so they want as much room for resupply as they can get to put as many tools, equipment, and supplies on board the station. So that's their primary mission.
Now, for a mission like this, because it's not like there's no spacewalks on this mission, there's no robotic activity. I mean, there's the robot gas station experiment.
Right.
Did the crew have less time? I mean, they didn't really need as much training this go-around, did they?
Well, one, you're dealing with an experienced crew, so
yes.
they've gotten through we've been there and done that, but still the amount of training on any flight is pretty high. I mean, in fact, here's a great shot here of Chris getting in. I tell people getting in to the seat here is, imagine going out to your driveway in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. And you get in your car.
Right.
Except some joker parked the car on its back bumper straight up and down. Now imagine trying to climb in that seat wearing this big bulky orange suit. So it's less than graceful. Once you get in there, though, it's pretty comfortable. But now they want to get you comfortable. Once you get in there and you're laying down, it's at least for me, it wasn't uncomfortable because they've worked pretty good at getting these pads in there to relieve the hot spots. You can also, once you put your helmet on and get it sealed, you can actually pump up the suit. So the suit's inflatable? It's like the Michelin Man? Yeah, so you can be like the Michelin Man in there.
I'm seeing, I want to say that's number 2 there, and I'm not sure. I hate saying that way, but that could be 3.
Yeah, well, usually you'll see the closeout crew will strap in the astronauts, and then you'll see the ASP, astronaut support person, who will be wearing the number 2, will come up and do the final, okay, do you got your checklist where you want? Do you have, everything set up, so you can get to it? Because you can see you're not extremely mobile once you're strapped in with that suit on.
But I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, that is the astronaut support crew. I'm waiting to get a clear shot of his arm, but that looks like Randy Bresnik that's down there. And I remember Randy because he you know, he's a new dad, and he had his little daughter while he was on orbit. So
yeah,
that's how I remember Randy.
I almost did that.
You almost had that happen to you?
Yeah, my wife's due date with our first child was the day of my first launch. Yeah, my wife said some people do anything to get out of the delivery room. My husband left the planet.
Yeah, you're never going to live that down. She's still milking that, ain't she?
Oh yeah, well then I launched my second flight on her first birthday, so.
Ooh, man, I mean,
I was pretty ultimate deadbeat dad at that point. So.
I don't think, yeah, but I mean, you know, wow. The timing on that did get kind of questionable. So we're looking at the pilot here, Doug Hurley, and it looks like he's getting the booties off. Now the booties are basically on to stop static electricity, is that correct?
Yeah, static electricity. Also, you don't want to get any dirt caught up in your boot that you can track in and all of that. So kind of multiple purpose.
We've seen this countless times when the astronauts are getting ready in the White Room.
Right.
What is it like? What are you thinking? And what do you as you're suiting up and getting ready to go?
You know, it's one of these fun moments because it's getting more real. I mean, as you go through all of these different steps to get ready for launch, it's just getting to be more like it's really going to happen finally. I mean, you've been training for a long time. You're now actually putting on the real flight gear. You got the real closeout crew there in their
look at
white
that.
suits. That's a great photo op.
Yeah, no kidding.
And now you're going to go climb into this vehicle that's really fueled up and ready to go to space. So this is a pretty exciting moment. Pause there for a couple pictures, wave hi in the camera, say hi to the family, and then climb in, and it's kind of exciting because as each person gets in, you're getting closer and closer and closer. There's a little bit of a time rush here. It's not as bad for this because there's only 4 people, so their strap-in timeline's a lot quicker. When you have 7, it takes a while to get all 7 people set.
So they're on the flight deck, and I just really probably nobody will be going to the mid-deck.
Right. It'll be empty, which is unusual.
Should quick on the draw I am right there. I mean, figure this out like 3 hours away from launch, hey.
And some of us were broadcasting on it.
Well, some of us I'm not going to take it to your level, young lady. Exactly. So, see how you threw me. Thank you, Kerry. You're just on the side throwing curveballs. This is what I got to work with.
I know.
A bunch of savages in this town.
It's hard. Got to be sharp to play with the big boys.
Now, I'm gonna do a little bit of bragging here, and it's not every day I get to say this. When I'm out here and I'm doing these events for Space Vidcast or whomever, I usually report on space. Mm-hmm. For this mission, I actually got to touch base and actually not touch base, but I actually got to participate. When they were here at TCDT, I got to fly in the SDA with Chris Ferguson.
Oh, you got to fly SDA?
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. What did you think of that?
I wanted to cry. I was sitting next to Dan Tanny, and he was sitting there, and he knew I didn't like. I told him, I said, I don't like to fly.
Then you'll love the SDA.
No, he had a field day with me. Well, first Taco, Ken Cockrell, he screwed with me. Oh, it's nothing. It's like a generic flight, piece of cake. And I watched the video now, and you can watch that jerk. You can see him smirk, little savage. He's messing with me. So we get on the plane, and I had Fergie as a pilot, and sitting there and I'm expecting nothing, and I look over the window, and I don't know why this is. You can give me an honest answer because Tanny sure as hell wasn't giving me one. And it was, I said, why are the windows scratched? And he looked at me with the straightest face I've ever seen and goes, oh, well, from the last reporter who tried to close his way out. And I'm like, don't be like that. No, I'm not doing well over here.
Last reporter trying to close his way out.
And then he begins his first descent. You hear the engines start to reverse.
Right.
And the best way I can describe it to you at home is it sounds like you watch a movie where a plane is crashing. The engines cut out, and you hear that sound as it's about ready to plunge into the solid earth below. That's the sound it makes. And you're also only being held in your seat by a seatbelt. So it was an experience. But it was very neat for me. Because, like I said, I get to report and cover this. But
that's amazing to fly a shuttle training aircraft. The STA is an amazing tool. What I tell people is it's simulated in an airplane.
Right.
And so there's a computer there. You saw the big blue box. And what it's doing is it's seeing the way a shuttle flies for the pilot. And in fact, if you looked up there in the left seat, he actually has a shuttle rotational.
Right. Yes.
The displays of the shuttle, the heads-up display of the shuttle. They even put an insert in the window so that the window is the same size.
I saw that. Actually, we have the video where he was installing it,
and then they have a cloud.
Yeah, they have the cloud shut, which I thought was okay. That's weird. Finally got wrapped up and in there like he is now. And I tell you that big, gigantic story to ask this question is whenever he stood, he kind of did this old man thing where like he would lean forward. I'm wondering, is there something?
Or was it a suited run? Were they in their suits?
Yes, they were in their suits.
So yeah, you do that once before flight. You actually fly in the shuttle training aircraft in your suit. We normally just fly in like you saw earlier, the blue flight suits.
Right.
But they'll do one full-up dress rehearsal where you get to practice flying it with the gloves and the suit. Everything on, so you get the feeling of what that's going to be like with everything. And part of the problem you have is when you're coming in that approach is the weight of the helmet and everything.
Pulls your head down.
You have to have that all, the collars up and everything so that you have a little spacer in there to kind of, one goes under the chin, beside your back pad. You have the one under the chin, it kind of holds the helmet up a little bit too so it doesn't like flop over as you come down final. So.
Right now they're just basically, they're getting situated, they're relaxing as much as they can. They're getting ready to fly.
Yeah, you don't want to actually work too hard. In fact, they tend to be a vegetable. So you're going to lay there while they get you all strapped in, and because you're in the suit too, it's almost like wearing a personal sauna. So if you start wiggling around too hard or expending too much energy, you can get pretty hot in there, even though it's got a cooling garment to keep you cool.
I'm going to have you either deflate or confirm a pop cultural statement, but in the movie Armageddon, probably one of Michael Bay's true classics, they're getting strapped in, and he goes, one guy makes a comment, well, at least you haven't Helga's House of Pain after this. And I mean, it looks like it's this torturous experience. Is it really that bad? Being strapped into the shuttle?
No, I didn't find it. I mean, it's a little awkward, but they've got this down to an art. You can see on the screen here, for example, they're helping his gloves on.
Right.
And again, after you've done this a few times, and the very first time you get in the suit is kind of a struggle because you're not sure how to deal with this thing. But after you've trained with it, you've done training in the simulators, and you've been in, they did terminal countdown tests, the TCDT.
Right.
One of the reasons you do all this is you get more comfortable with your equipment. And the big thing is just don't fight it. It's just whether you're doing EVA in the big white suit or you're in the orange suit or you need to relax and just take your time. We used to have a saying on one of my flights that faster was slower and slower was faster.
Kind of like orbital mechanics, so much you slow down to speed up.
Right. Just take your time. Don't fight the equipment. Just go with it, and it's not that bad.
I don't know, but Sandy, I've had a chance a few times, and she's as sharp as sharp can get. And it's like her job is kind of like load master for this, when she's the one that's going to be handling the payload.
Right. We always designate on these station flights a load master because just the logistics of keeping track of all of the stuff going on and all the stuff coming off is a fairly big job. And choreographed, and so she has a plan on what is the most efficient way to get all these things moved out of the shuttle into the station and back in, and they'll count for them all because, if you left something behind, you call them and go get it.
No, can't turn around.
Mounting, so you can actually see, sometimes they mount it up the heads-up display, and you can see back through between the pilot and the commander.
I think the most
strapping in.
While I agree with you, this is an amazing shot. I think one of the most fascinating shots I saw was actually the camera's turned the other way around and looking out the window, and you can see there's a name for it. Timex. The covers that go over the engine.
Oh yeah.
You could see them fall away. You could see the sky grow black. I was like, I've never seen that before.
That's a cool shot. Yeah, you get a little, idea of what the commander and the pilot are seeing out the front windows launch, which is fascinating. It's still one of my vivid memories. My first launch is just being able to see the atmosphere go away below you as you lift it off and into space.
Now, Randy, in this shot, you can see in his hat, he's got the, it looks like the STS-135 patch, but the other gentleman that's helping, I guess, the pilot get suited in, anything, is there some reason behind that?
I think it's just what he felt like. I mean, maybe I didn't have a patch on my hat when I was an asp. I guess maybe they started doing that. But
now that's another thing. Does every asp, do they have to kind of cycle through and try to get a chance to do this? Is that part of their kind of their training?
Not everybody. We have like what we call additional duties when you're in the astronaut office. You spend your whole first year as in training to learn all about systems, the station, the shuttle, and all the different things you have to learn about NASA and how to fly. And then after you finish that, you start getting assigned to different what I call additional duties or jobs. And some people are working to work technical jobs. For example, one of the jobs I was landing and rollout, which is kind of fun because we actually go to the simulators and practice all the different aborts and look at things like modifications to the drag chutes, the braking system, and all that. One of the additional jobs is what we call pretty loud next door.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm wondering who's coming out, and actually, I'm wondering if we can have. He'll be coming over here for a millisecond, but I don't know if that's going to happen. No, they're walking away, but. Very busy man there.
Yeah, so one of your additional duties is what we call the ASP, Astronaut Support Person.
Now, you mentioned another acronym, and I was hoping you could, because our primary core audience is young college kids with a very colorful sense of humor, so if you could explain what ASCAN actually stands for, that'd be great.
That's Astronaut Candidate.
Right.
So we're referred to as the ASCANs when you first get there.
Now, how long are you been ASCAN for?
About a year.
About a year. That's basically, is that like a shakedown period?
It's your initial introduction to everything NASA and the shuttle program and the station program.
Shuttle to orbit than anybody on the planet. And then the other thing was
we're just kind of watching the crew get suited up. I see Doug Hurley there. Now, while the pilot and the commander are getting the shuttle to orbit, what are the mission specialists doing in the back seats?
In the two seats right behind the pilot and the commander?
Yeah.
Well, now they're going to get strapped in, but their jobs are like flight engineer, if you will. So you can think of a cockpit in an airplane. You have the pilot and the co-pilot. We call them the commander and the pilot, because I think nobody wanted to be called co-pilot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we did it that way, but that's the way we do it at NASA. And then you have MS1 and MS2, mission specialist number 1 and 2, and they basically act as what we call flight engineers, and they help run all the checklists, especially if you have any contingency issues. If something were to go wrong, they can help get into the emergency checklist. And because you have two mission specialists, and you have so many systems, especially in training, because they break everything in training simultaneously. So the commander will be dealing with his problems, and the pilot will be dealing with his problems on his side, because the pilot has all the controls. Doug, what he's got over on his side, he has all the controls for the hydraulics, the auxiliary power units, the electrical system, the engine controls, all the switches for the molds for all the jets and all that. And the commander, of course, is trying to keep the big picture of where they're going, and he has all the controls for the computers.
Okay. Now, what was that red box that he just moved out of the way there?
That may have been, I think it was I don't see it now, but it was probably, there's a red cover over the controller, the rotational
and that's
controller.
to kind of prevent them from hitting it.
It's a stick, basically, your control stick, and basically as you're strapping in, you don't want to get your boot caught on the stick or little switches on it, because it has some buttons, and it's a little bit sensitive, so you don't want to, manhandle it too bad.
Well, pretty much what we got going on right now is the crew's getting suited up. I mean, there's nothing really amazing going on, but we got Doc here. We want to take full advantage of that. I don't know if Trina or any of the folks that work with you warned you, but we are a fully interactive and insane online media. Yeah, so if you would send questions to us that you'd like to, Doc, astronaut, about what goes on during the crew walkout, suiting up, feeding in, as it were, or shuttle mission, feel free. Okay, he's getting.
Yeah, as you can see, this is going to work out real nice here with 4. It's going to be calm strap in. When you have 7 people sometimes, if you have a suit that maybe, you know, you're having a little trouble with, or, you know, you can get behind schedule pretty quickly. But so this is going to be pretty calm and won't be a big rush because they only have 4 people to get strapped in this morning.
Do you think that could have been one of the considerations for the 4-person crew side? Keep things basically in the military, we had KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other, we discussed before, I think the other things drove the size of the crew.
Right.
This is just going to be one of the benefits is they're going to have a very calm strap-in period. And you can see that little plastic pad they also, you've got just pulled out there behind his back.
Yeah.
It's actually a Teflon piece of plastic, so you can slip so they can push in seat real easy, and then they can slide that little plastic thing out from under your back.
Whoa. Okay, I've seen the commercial TV where they have like the little pad that goes underneath the shirt so like this little old lady can move up.
Thing, right, yeah.
It's the same thing?
Yeah, so you can push astronauts around. Because they're not zero G, so you need a little slip and slide thing, push them into their seats. They want to push you down into your seat really hard and get straps in good, because when you take off, it's going to want to pull you out of your seat. So that's, they work pretty hard to get you strapped in pretty tight.
Only a little bit better from space.
Doc, we got a question here from Jim Noble.
Okay.
How confident are you in the commercial space's ability to either shorten or close the logistics gap of spaceflight?
But just in general, the night sky.
The logistics gap, well, depends on what you mean by close the gap. We're going to have a gap.
Yes. Well, how about this? How about...
So it's going to take them a while to be ready to close the logistics gap. The first flight to the station is scheduled for sometime end of the year, early next year.
It's unmanned, though.
And that's going to be unmanned. But logistics is, if you're just talking about packages and cargo and supplies, I think they have to being able to start moving some supplies to and from this in the next year or so. As far as moving the crew, that's a lot harder to do, and that's going to take a longer amount of time. I can't give a good estimate on how long it's going to take them.
Frank Mooring with Aviation Week said best, astronauts aren't cheese.
Astronauts are not. Yeah, that's kind of a play on words. I think people have sort of underestimated what it's going to take. Back when I was running the exploration program in Washington, we started the COTS program. We were going to take a while to be able to deliver cargo. And at that time, I knew it was going to take, you needed to get through all of that to learn all the lessons of just basically getting rockets airborne and being able to do rendezvous and being able to pack logistics and handle all of the safety issues with approaching the space station. I mean, it's this multinational $100 billion investment we have. Yeah. So you can't just go fling stuff at it at, 18,000 miles an hour without certain precautions and safety and knowledge.
And it was kind of neat that the Russians were like, "Niet, not until you've had a little bit more. No, you want to prove this out first." But they actually said.
So there's some good test programs that they have planned where you basically get up in space, you kind of fly in formation a certain distance, and then you can go through certain maneuvers to get closer and prove out your rendezvous techniques and your control systems. So that'll take a little while. Do I think they can get that in the next couple of years? I'm pretty sure that can do that, but the crew's going to take a lot longer.
To address our guest and Adam Nutt, I apologize that I was being forced to talk to the back of my head.
Sorry.
But I got to read. I'm checking to see what we got going on in the video, so it's I'm looking to see if there's any other folks who got, so I'm like crazy doing 3 things once, but it is what it is. But I like to think the back of my head is very attractive and fun to look at. It's not all bad. We're looking at them getting suited up right now, and I mean, they basically don't do anything. They just get their hands and appendages and whatever they're.
Like I told you, you're told be a vegetable. So you lay back there and you just let them do all the work to get your straps down and check all your connections for your oxygen and for your communications and everything, and Now, once they get you all suited in and they go on to the next person, you'll start getting ready to run your checklists and get ready for the rest of the countdown.
Now, Doc, I saw a question here that I would like to throw to you because, I mean, to be honest, I'm sure it's just regular generic type of supplies. Somebody asked what type of supplies are being delivered to the station on this flight. Do you have an idea what kind of stuff they'd be bringing up on this mission?
I don't have the manifest. I haven't reviewed the whole manifest for this, but there's going to be, they'll bring water. In fact, what happens is the shuttle actually produces water with its fuel cell, so they actually pump a lot of that water and they transfer it over. They can transfer some of the gases, so we can transfer some of the nitrogen and oxygen, depending on how much the shuttle has. Big things will be spare parts.
Oh, yes.
So you want to have as many spare parts and large items, because we won't be able to transfer any large items after the shuttle's gone, because the Soyuz is only so big and the transfer vehicles are only so big. So actually volume becomes one of the problems, more so than mass sometimes. Some of the objects that we call on-orbit replaceable units, ORUs, are large.
Very large.
Like radiators, solar panels, things like that are huge.
Someone asked, do they have any gratis seats on Soyuz? If by gratis you mean $63 million a pop?
Sure.
Yes. But if you mean like as being our allies and our partners, not so much. None.
No, we pay the Russians for the seats.
7-person crew on the shuttle, and I had this broke down. I'm not sure if you got the math on this. I think per person, a shuttle flight per astronaut costs $68 million.
Yes and no.
Okay.
And so let's look at the math a little bit.
All right.
This is an interesting question. So first of all, you have to figure out what's the average price of a shuttle mission.
$403 million.
Okay, that's approximately. You take the annual budget, divide by 4.5 average flights per year, whatever. So you come about $400 million.
Okay.
One of the things the shuttle brings up is 15 metric tons worth of stuff. So you have cargo and so what are you
what's the dollar amount on
for a kilo of cargo? And if you work that out, depending on how you want to split it, you can either say, hey, for pure cargo, so there's 15 metric tons, goes into 400. Someone can do the math in public, but it's probably a little less than 30 million a metric ton, which is 30,000 a kilo. That'd be 450 million. So then the crew would go free, right? If you were paying 30,000, a kilo.
Right. Okay.
At $400 million a flight. Or you could split it up and say 7 people, maybe half of it's for the cargo, half of it's for the crew, and get, show the seats are about $80 million and the cargo is maybe 15,000 a kilo or something like that. Or depending on how you wanted to split it up between crew and cargo.
It depends how you basically break down the numbers.
Right. It's kind of like an airline. You pay so much per seat and you pay so much for cargo. Right. Now they charge you for bags.
I think that one part of that equation that I heard that I kind of wanted to, put in there is like, if you're in Soyuz, the space that Doc and I have between us,
that's a big space.
That is huge, because these guys, they're like.
Yeah. I've been strapped in a Soyuz before. It's like how many people can you stuff in a Volkswagen?
Yep. And there's no 60-foot payload bay. There's no robot manipulator system. There's none of that.
No, it's your basic transportation.
Yep.
3 people, very tight quarters, but it's designed just to get 3 people up and down and do it with the minimal size rocket, which kind of brings up, how big a rocket do you need? The shuttle launches basically 200 to 240,000 pounds into orbit, which is the shuttle.
Right.
So that launch vehicle, that big orange tank and those boosters and those engines basically lift 200,000 pounds into orbit, which is a little less than 100 metric tons. You see Rex getting all ready to go in.
Yeah, Rex is getting suited up. And Marco F. is saying, I think the Atlantis is different to the other shuttles in some aspects, but forgot which one. So basically they're asking, everybody looks at the shuttles and they think Discovery, Endeavour, and Atlantis are identical. And they are identical. No. Atlantis is better. And by the way, I got a gift for Ben coming up here in a minute. But what are the differences with Atlantis compared to the others?
Well, the shuttles, some of them were more different than others.
Right.
Columbia was the first, and you could tell from the outside it was different. It had a pod up on the tail.
Right.
That was used early in flight tests to take infrared pictures of the upper surfaces of the wings and everything. And also, instead of having blankets on the outside, in a lot of places it had white tile.
Right.
So it was a lot different. And then, of course, it had internally, it had beefier structure that after they flew it and they tested it, they found they could reduce weight in some areas. So the newer shuttles, which were, Atlantis is one of them, have a lighter structure, and they have the blankets for protection, for thermal protection versus the white tiles. Atlantis was also the first one to get the new displays in the cockpit.
The glass. Yeah.
In fact, my flight on STS-101 was with Jim Hossell as the commander. It was the first light of the cockpit, which was the new electronic cockpit.
So, but that was your very first flight, so you didn't fly with
No, that was my first flight in Atlantis.
Oh, but did you see the difference? I mean, what was it like to you? Was it really static, or was it just a nice up?
It was really interesting because we started with what we call steam gauges,
right,
which are the big round dials you see in like older airplanes.
With little arrows on them.
With arrows and needles, which actually are nice. And then we went to all electronic displays, and of course some interesting things we had to learn. In fact, during one of our early simulators, they had one of the simulators had the old display, one had display, because you had to worry about the simulator configuration.
Right.
So we had the computers, and you have to worry about all the interfaces, and of course it gave the simulator team something else to break. So they would fail displays on you, and you had to reconfigure your displays. So you had to learn another computer system, which is okay, something to learn, but it's great capability.
Okay, just for those who are checking in right now, I've seen this is like the second or third bald guy reference. I'm going to help you out here. Those of you who don't know my name, it's Voldemort. You know, say it, love it, live it, and if you don't like me, I got the cruise curse coming your way, brother. Just
go ahead and reintroduce yourselves. You guys have been on, and there are a lot of new viewers.
Okay, well, I'm Jason Ryan. I work for Space Vidcast as their roving KSC reporter, and this is Astronaut Doc Horowitz, and he has been gracious enough to take a lot of time out of his busy day today to walk us through crew walkout and let us know all these little things that you may not know otherwise. So, I'm like, what was he talking? Okay, they're him ready to, he's asked one. Now at this point, is everybody else pretty much, and they got to wave to Mom, is everybody else pretty much ready to go? They're waiting on Rex now?
Yeah, they're getting comfortable in their seats, you know, making sure, like I said, you know, that they got their suits on, they got their gloves. One of the things you would do sometimes is close your helmet, and you can actually inflate your suit, and that would help get the wrinkles out of the suit, because it's like being in a big balloon.
And so the wrinkles kind of pinch, or what?
Yeah, sometimes you'll get like some of the material will fold over as you're getting strapped in and stuff. So one of the ways to kind of get everything kind of smoothed out is you can just blow the suit up, and that smooths it all out, and then you can settle back in your seat and deflate the suit, and you're very comfortable.
Okay, Necro and I has a question directly for you.
Okay.
Of all your time in space, what was your most memorable experience?
I have a lot of memorable experience. The most memorable, the thing that pops in my mind every time I talk about it is my first launch. Your first launch as a rookie is just, no matter how much you train, no matter how many sims you go through, nothing prepares you for your first launch. So it's pretty exciting. That's probably the most memorable, even though there's hundreds of incredible memories of space flight. That first launch and the first time you've looked at the Earth from above the atmosphere is probably the most memorable.
Nicholas Perkins asked, and this is a standard question at Space Vidcast.
Okay, here we go.
What is your favorite orbiter?
There is a right answer.
There's a right answer?
Right, incorrect answer.
No. Well, my favorite orbiter was Columbia. That was my favorite orbiter. That was my first ride to space was on Columbia. And of course, very sad to have to deal with the tragedy. But there's a lot about your first.
Oh, someone just slapped Atlantis hard. Such terminology is not appreciated on the show. Heifer? Really? Ouch. For the longest time, Ben and I have been kind of going back and forth. Cause
you guys have a favorite? What's your favorite?
Oh, there's only one right answer. right answer is Atlantis.
Why is Atlantis your favorite? I mean, obviously I like Atlantis.
You know, we've never actually told the story on air. Could you? We may need to. We've never actually told the story on air. The reason Atlantis is my favorite is because the question came up in one of our live shows at one time.
Right.
And everyone was voting for Discovery because Discovery's done a fantastic number of missions. And
Discovery's done the most.
All the big missions.
And I played Discovery twice, so I like Discovery.
So everyone was voting for Discovery. So no, I can't choose Discovery because then
oh, you can't choose Discovery.
So then the two options are Atlantis and Endeavour.
Okay.
Endeavour is the newest one, so it's your next easiest one to pick, which leaves Atlantis in the middle, the least likely of anyone to pick any orbiter.
So you want to pick the least likely.
So on the fly,
you picked Atlantis just to be difficult?
I picked Atlantis just to be difficult in the middle of the live show about 3 years ago. And now you guys know, now that we're ending the Space Shuttle program, I can finally tell you the reason Atlantis is the right answer is because I wanted to make your life miserable.
Finally comes out because he had all these convoluted stories.
Oh, yeah.
It was the first launch ever seen. It's glorious in the light. You know what?
I made it up. The real answer is to make your life difficult.
Yep. For the longest time for me was Endeavour because she was the first that I got to do basically the whole missions through. I mean, I did TCDC. I was an intern at NASA, so I did the whole 9 yards. Everything with an STS-135, which was Endeavour.
There you go.
But here's the deal. I kind of got to side a little bit more with Ben, but for different reasons. When I was an intern, the closest I've ever got to a launch was, of course, right there at the Shorten base, and it was Atlantis. And now the very last
is Atlantis.
It's going to be Atlantis. And as I think back of all the big milestones, all the big really juicy little things that the journalists do was with Atlantis. But I mean, I love Endeavour. She's the baby girl, but
I have to say that Atlantis is the first bird that I saw. So she now is my favorite.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Ben spoke it into being to a certain extent. So Atlantis now is the correct answer because
you realize this man has an ego, and you
I know, but he spoke it into being. Atlantis now is my favorite shuttle.
All right, now you know why I'm bald.
So, you know, you guys all bring up what's kind of interesting is everyone has their favorite. I mean, it's almost, again, the vehicles are a reflection of all the people that work on them, and they all have a personality, and everyone has a favorite, and they're more than just a machine. A lot of people who haven't been around the space program have a hard time relating to that, but they all have a personality, and you know, people love their favorite shuttles,
right?
And you guys just really exhibited that here today. It's part of what makes this job so much fun to be part of the space program is the people get really, you know, of their shuttle.
Yeah, that's their shuttle.
Their shuttle. Also, you become their crew. It's like you're their family, you know.
No, they're not all the same, GI. Let me say there's one thing that about the public's understanding of the shuttle irks me.
Irks you?
Yeah, I want to use that because I'll see a Discovery model, and I'm not as versed in the aerospace lingo, but Columbia had another very distinguishing feature, and the tips of the wings on the looking downside were black. Now, those sections are called, I want to say they're not canards.
No, well, there was the thermal insulation on Columbia was just different,
right?
In a lot of ways, because a lot of it was unknown. So again, first flight, all the shit from their wind tunnel models, and remember, it was designed in the late 70s. So computational fluid dynamics, which is all the computer codes they use to do all the thermal analysis, was not nearly sophisticated as it is today. And thanks to Columbia and the data, they were able to update all the models and do better predictions of the heat, you know, that's generated. And so they had to be a little more conservative and put more tiles tend to be the higher temperature tiles.
Right.
The darkish gray leading edges are the very high temperature carbon.
Reinforced carbon, right.
You know, that's what you see on the nose caps and on the leading edges. And so there was a lot more of the high temperature. And then as they realized they didn't need as much of it, and the follow-on shuttles, they went with more of the white protection.
Well, the thing that irks me is that I'll get a discovery, because I have a lot of replicas at home, and we work with some folks that handle these things.
Painted wrong?
They got the black on the top. I'm like, oh no. No. You need to take this back. You need to have a factory. Where's the quality control in this dump, all right? They're not black on Discovery. There's only one. I speak to the crew of STS-107. You should get it right. It's important. It's how you identify it. That's the one thing that bothers me. People
Well, it is the easiest one to tell from the others.
Yes, it is.
It was the prototype.
I do want to give everyone a really quick weather update. There is actually no update. So people were noting that I am still wearing the red shirt. We are still red. We're no-go. We're at a 30% chance of go, which puts us below our 50% threshold for go, no-go. Saturday
so you have to be 50% to change your shirt?
Yeah, we actually have a replacement shirt right there. The moment we go over 50% go, I will wear, or we launch. And then actually, the more telltale sign is the graphic at the bottom of the screen, the estimated time to launch is currently red. That will switch to green. You know, the thing is, just because you're 30% chance go or 70% chance no go, it does not mean that we're not going to go.
That's right.
It just means that the chances are lower of going.
Ooh, Adam, that was harsh. Mr. Higginbotham is married.
So. There's no change. The launch between Saturday and Sunday is a little bit different now. Sunday was looking like the most promising day. That shifted to Saturday now. So of all the days, we're 60% go, 40% no-go on Saturday, and then 50-50 on Sunday. So if we run into a weather issue, it will most likely go on Saturday. But frankly, you know, I'm looking around, we're sitting outside, and of course, Florida weather can change at any moment in time.
That's the issue. It can change at any moment.
Absolutely,
as you know.
like on a dime.
Right.
But you know, right now, I don't think this is no-go condition. In fact, if we were to launch right now at this exact moment in time, I think we'd be okay.
It's hard to estimate the ceilings over the shuttle landing facility. So that's going to be one of the considerations. And I can't see through the lower layers if there's any buildup within 25
You don't have infrared eyes that allow you to...
I can't see right through that. So.
And that's another interesting point, is that for the abort mechanisms, it's not just the weather at Kennedy Space Center.
Right.
A majority of the transatlantic abort sites have to be green.
Well, you have to have at least one.
Well, that's, we'll call that a majority.
You have to have at least one.
Majority of one.
Majority of one, exactly.
And then you have to have good enough weather back if you had to land at the landing facility. And you can't have any tower cumulus with anvils and lightning within so many miles of the Cape.
Turbo electrification.
And that's
actually going through the thinner layers. But that was due to the new configuration.
Yeah.
So I'll say, not being able to see what the clouds actually look like or go through them, just kind of the general gut feeling, which is a highly scientific approach.
Very highly scientific.
If we were to launch right now,
maybe more so than the weather guesses. Right?
Maybe. It feels like we'd be go right now, but we're not going right now. And one other point I do want to...
a couple hours.
Yeah, we've got 2 hours and 42 minutes, and I do want to point that out as well. The T-minus and L-minus clock, the T-minus clock is going to stop at 20 minutes, and it's designed to do that.
Right.
And the launch time you really want to look at is the L-minus clock. That's an estimated time when we're actually launch. Realistically, we don't know really when Atlantis will launch until solid rocket boosters ignite. Once they ignite, they are committed to space.
You're somewhere.
What does it feel like? I mean, so you got the SMEs, you twang. I mean, you got describe to me negative 6.6 and up.
Negative 6 seconds and up. As you know, at 6 seconds prior to liftoff, the main flight, the three main engines, and they're about half a million pounds of thrust apiece. So you got 1.5 million pounds of thrust. If you look at the shuttle on the pad, it's held down by the aft end of the solid rocket boosters. And so the main engines are a little off center.
Right.
And so the whole thing does, as you mentioned, the twang. So just like leaning forward, you feel the whole vehicle start to shake. Your gauges are coming alive. Pilot's first call is I got 3 at 100%, which on my first flight, one of them didn't go to 100%.
What did it go to?
Went to 64. So
it was throttling down early.
So that's supposed to thaw below 72. So you know, so usually the pilot at that point calls, I got 3 at 100. My first flight, I look at the commander and says, hey, I got 1 at 64. And so usually, if you don't get 3 good engines, you're an abort.
Yep.
So mission special is already opening checklist.
Yep.
You know, Maurizio Cayley was our MS2. He's opening checklist for the abort. Boom! Solid flight.
You're gone.
You're done now.
You know you're going somewhere, man. And there's 6 million pounds of thrust. This million-pound thing leaps off the pad. I look over to commander and go, where are we going? He looks at me, didn't they tell you? Left engine, and then we get alarm on the left engine.
The same one that has...
Same. 64. Settles down, it goes to 40. STS-135. First flight, 96. I go, hey, left engine's at, 64%. And he looks at me and says, doesn't matter anymore.
We're going someplace.
He says it matters to me. And it turned out we had a malfunction in a gauge, in the signal that went to the gauge, and we had a communication timing error, which is not a big deal. You see that in the sim sometimes, so we hadn't seen it in flight. Happened on the same day on the same engine, which was unusual. And just basically sent a command out to the engine, and it didn't get the handshake back to the computer, so it enunciated an alarm, but the engine was fine.
The engine was fine. It was just instrumentation.
It was just my instrumentation.
I should have loved you that
much. The control center actually was getting good indication. So when the commander says, okay, we're in the roll, he says, oh, by the way, we're showing left engine 64. Booster, who's the guy monitoring the engines, almost falls out of his chair. And mission control back in Houston is like, flight, I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm not seeing any of this.
They're not seeing any of this. It was just the signal that drove our gauge.
Have you heard of any other ascent stories from other astronauts who are like, this was a weird thing that happened while I was going?
We've had little things. I mean, we've had some serious things. We've had a small hole in one of the nozzles, which ended up changing the burn ratio and ended up with an early cutoff. That was on Eileen Collins' flight. They had a circuit breaker go. We lost when I was sitting in mission control at the Capcom. We lost one of the AC controllers for an engine.
Is that STS-94?
93. Eileen Collins' first flight, it was 93.
Yeah, but when she did return to flight, she had another issue. And so we've had lots of little issues, and it doesn't take much to kind of catch your attention, But your training kicks in. You've had every malfunction known to mankind, so you just kind of go through it and you read your checklist and go, oh, that's interesting.
Now, what about things along the lines of asking pranks? We sometimes hear that astronauts like to have fun with other astronauts.
Yeah.
Okay. I assume ascent is not the time to do that.
No, ascent's probably not the time. You're kind of busy.
Yeah, it's kind of an important part of launch.
Yeah,
But, maybe something leading up to ascent or right after.
On orbit's a good time to play pranks.
Yeah.
Maybe I can share one with you.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to share a prank?
Yeah.
Okay. So, first flight, fun flight, STS-135. We had the tethered mission, and if you remember the mission, we had a 20-kilometer, 12-mile long wire hooked to a satellite, creating electricity, created more electricity than anybody imagined, about an amp and 5 volts, and actually ended up burning the wire and off of the tether. It wasn't my fault. I was asleep at the time.
You put a caveat there a little bit too soon.
But for that flight, we flew with 2 Italians. It was an Italian satellite. Okay. And so Maurizio Cayley and Umberto Guidoni, they were rookies with me. So the 3 of us were rookies. In fact, we were all on the same shift, so we were the rookie shift. And we used to, during training, there was this little restaurant we used to visit, this Italian restaurant. And I'd always order fettuccine Alfredo. And they would go, that's not Italian. I go, of course it's Italian. It's on the Italian menu. Yeah. No, that's not Italian. We're Italian. We know Italian. Oh. I go, well, I'm ordering it anyway because I like it. So, they give me a hard time. So, I need to play a little prank on Lucio. So, I went to the people who prepare all our food for flight. I need a bunch of labels. And they said, really? I said, yeah. Can you print out a bunch of labels and put it in my food locker and label it fettuccine Alfredo, And that was like a year before flight. I kind of forgot about it. So then we get up on orbit.
And there they are.
And there's my labels. I go, oh, cool. So after, you know, Maurizio goes to sleep, I sneak into his food thing and I relabeled all his food fettuccine Alfredo.
So all his meals were mystery meals?
Everything. The drink packs, the pudding, everything. So the next morning, we wake up, and he pulls out his breakfast thing, and it says, Alfredo, comma, fettuccine. I didn't order fettuccine Alfredo. He pulls out another one. Fettuccine
He's looking at you
Alfredo.
at this point, right?
Oh, after about the fourth or fifth one. So he had mystery food for the whole flight. Everything was fettuccine Alfredo.
The story you told earlier, it reminded me of when I was sitting on Story Musgrave one time, and I forget which mission it was, but it had basically almost the same scenario played out. And they're going to orbit, and they had a mission specialist sit next to him, and something went wrong, and it looked like they were going TOW. So he's breaking the story's over there. He's breaking out the list, and he's going through it, and this guy sitting next to him, he's like looking at him. He's like, Story's like doing this. Yeah, Phil? Where are we going, Story?
Where are we going?
Spain, Phil. And so he goes, poor Phil, he's looking at me like, you know, what just happened? He goes, Spain, Story? And he goes, yeah, Phil, Spain, if we're lucky. And I'm just like, I can't imagine this poor guy. You know, you're sitting there, and this is the moment of your life. And the next thing you know, there's this guy who's highly skilled, trained, been on 6 shuttle missions, and he's just devouring this book. That's got to be the most terrifying experience ever. I don't think these guys here today are going to experience anything like that. Hopefully the weather will participate with us, work with us, and Scott, we want to thank you. This has been like an hour plus of awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a hoot. I mean, we really appreciate you taking the time. We're going to cycle through so we can get ready for our next guest.
Very good.
And
Back to NASA TV.
back to NASA TV. Go NASA.
Thanks, Jason.
Hey, thank you, Doc.